I'm ignoring your existence from today. The message that was affixed to the front door stated that. This seemed like yet another setback from my wife and daughter after a string of demanding shifts. They behave as though I'm non-existent. Until I saw my wife and daughter's true intents, I continued to think that we could go back to the good old days when we got along well. I turned off the house's water and electricity as a first move in my revenge. My wife confronted me out of rage. I'm Tim, and I'm 55 years old. I own a small advertising agency in a conventional New York neighborhood. We employ 11 people total, including temporary and part-time workers. People in their 20s to 60s work at this family-run business, which is undoubtedly more comfortable than my house. I remarried Kathy 5 years ago. She was 15 years my junior. I accepted Mary, Kathy's daughter, who was in the 5th grade at the time, into our home as my stepdaughter. Mary, while being a stepchild, became my first kid as I had no children from my first marriage. I was originally concerned about her acceptance of me as her father, but she called me Dad and loved me right away. Regardless of how busy I was, I would leave work to race to Mary's track matches and set up my camera to record her courageous moments, since I thought of Mary as my own daughter. This year, Mary is starting high school, which should be an exciting time. Sadly, in our 5 years of marriage, our family relationship has entirely cooled down. I understand why. I was frequently absent from home due to my constant work-related distractions. In my first marriage, it was the same. I was employed by a large corporation as a corporate employee back then, when I was much younger, in my 30s. I used to frequently entertain clients or go out for drinks with supervisors and coworkers after work. I would usually return home in the wee hours of the morning. My wife eventually left one day, taking a divorce note with her. My first wife and I got divorced years ago, and I never believed I would get married again. However, that is how my current wife, Kathy, entered my life. I meant to value this friendship even more than before, but I haven't been able to go home at all in recent weeks due to work-related stress. No, it's only a 30-minute trip from my house to the office, so I could have made it home if I had really tried. However, I persisted in spending the night at the office since I felt uncomfortable around my family. When I did go home, Kathy would actually just say, "Oh, you're back," without even fixing dinner, and we seldom talked about anything other than what was absolutely essential. Nonetheless, I made a concerted effort to communicate with my family. I'm sorry for always coming back at odd hours. Hey, I might be able to get the next weekend off for a long weekend. How about we take a family trip to a hot spring, just the 3 of us? But all Kathy could muster was a strained smile in return. You don't need to come. Mary and I will go as usual. Besides, young kids aren't interested in hot springs these days. Is that so? I was at a loss for words. Mary's attitude was even worse than Kathy's, who was colder than hell. When we did occasionally get together at the house, she would just give me a frustrated look in return, even when I smiled. It resembled how someone might respond if they saw an unfamiliar stranger attempting to strike up a conversation on the street. Don't look so upset. Seeing you smile would blow all the fatigue from my work away. What? That's super creepy. I'm not just upset. I genuinely dislike you. Go away. Shaken by her remarks, I looked to Kathy for guidance. Mary recently told me she hates me. She used to call me Dad when she was in elementary school, but now she won't even talk to me, I said. That's just the way it is, isn't it? All girls her age are like that, Kathy replied, frowning. I vowed not to quit up on this family bond, even if it was the chilly answer I anticipated. I guess so. If she kept calling me Dad, she might never get a boyfriend. By the way, does Mary have a boyfriend? She's beautiful like you, so she must be popular. I chuckled. My attempt at comedy, however, backfired, and Kathy looked irritated, saying, Mary has her own life, so she's naturally wary since you're not her real father. And that sort of prying was plain weird. Wary? She means she doesn't trust you. And please don't call Mary sweet or anything like that. It could be taken the wrong way. Kathy's scathing remarks sent me to my knees. How can I earn back my family's trust? I genuinely questioned. I believed that before it was too late, I needed to spend more time and interact with my family in a meaningful way. I've considered retiring when I turn 60 and giving my company to a friend. After that, I want to take Kathy and Mary on an opulent global cruise. Of course, this is meant to be a treat for Mary if she is accepted into college, but I still want to take her, to demonstrate to her that pleasure in life is about more than simply getting into a prestigious university and earning a job at a prestigious firm. I had once told Kathy that I was considering leaving the company. She displayed her rage. What are you talking about? If you give up the company, how will we live? Do you know how much more money it will take? Yes, I am aware of this, but we should have enough savings to pay for Mary's entire school. And since I won't be leaving entirely, everything should be all right. I told her, I won't let you guys suffer, and I managed to save Kathy. She said, yes, the account I gave you when we got married, all of a sudden. It was intended to be used for our future. That was a long time ago. I'm done with it, she said. It was as if someone had taken a hammer to my brain. Used up. Then, what about Mary's future? You just need to keep working hard until you drop, Kathy replied with a sly smile. The best thing you can do for your family is that. Don't worry about anything else. Simply work to fulfill our needs. That's your purpose, she replied, her smile giving me a shiver. I wanted to think I was different, but after hearing Kathy say that there are many guys in this world who are fathers only in name, whose reality is merely to earn money, I had to confront the fact that I wasn't what she wanted in the first place. I was just a source of revenue. When I got home one night from yet another long workday, I saw this note on the front door. Asterisk starting today, I'm disregarding your existence asterisk. I took my time, peeling the paper off the door and tucked it into my shoe. When I finally got inside, as I had promised, neither my wife nor my daughter acknowledged me. It was as though I had vanished from sight. Since no food had been prepared, I spread out on the dining table a quick meal I had picked up at the convenience store and began to eat. I opened the refrigerator, needing a beer badly, and there was not a single one left. Not only that, but all the snacks and dried foods I had purchased to go with the beer were thrown out, as if they had really made up their minds to ignore me. But the time came when that resolution was broken. I still wanted to live happily with my family the way we used to. I still had happy memories in my heart. I was resolved to honestly engage with my family no matter what. The reply was another note. Asterisk, do not come to the entrance ceremony. If you do, I will hate you forever. Asterisk, Mary was starting high school, and I had promised to take the day off work to attend. Peeling off the paper, I wondered how it had come to this. No matter how hard I tried, I could never come up with an explanation. Desperate to see Mary on her special day, I followed them in secret, only to find out a startling truth. Following the ceremony at the entry, Kathy and Mary went into a cafe, and I stepped in after them, lurking behind them as I listened to their jovial banter. Has he recently shown you any creepiness, Mom? I'm genuinely concerned for you. Well, occasionally I do sense his eerie gazes, but it appears that the ignore tactic is working. He no longer communicated with us. That's excellent. Mary, I apologize for forcing you to refer to someone else as Dad. He was, however, a very giving man. That's why I felt grateful. But that was his true purpose in life. My only goal was to save our future. I was so shocked to learn the truth that I was unable to move from that location even after they had departed. There was nothing to be gained. Everything had been a lie from the beginning. The wrath was so powerful that I was unable to control it. It was spring, a busy time for moving, and I never thought I would be this stressed out over not being loved. I went straight to the real estate agency and proceeded to cancel the lease on my apartment, which was close to the station, spacious, and well lit, so the agent was surprised by the sudden cancellation, but I knew it would find a new tenant quickly. I also called to have the utilities, like water and electricity, disconnected. I stayed at work instead of going home, and the following day Kathy and Mary arrived at my office clearly agitated. The water and power are off. What is happening? Tell me not to worry. You have been paying your expenses. Have you never settled any bills on your own? I deliberately did that. You two must vacate the apartment before the end of this month, since I've also canceled the lease. I spoke abruptly and without emotion. And we're getting a divorce. Kathy's face reddened with rage after hearing this. Divorce? What topic are you discussing? That kind of stuff can't just be said out of the blue and expected to happen. It's not a sudden development. You married me merely to live comfortably. Isn't that right? She called me Dad, and you two laughed at me behind my back. What are you saying? What's the matter with you? You're not like the other people. I laughed a bit when Kathy said, Wasn't it you who always labeled me creepy? You will no longer have to coexist with a strange man. I hope the two of you have a great life together. The money I gave you when we got married is still with you, right? In addition to the monthly salary I have been providing you, you own all of the savings. But as I just mentioned, I'm almost done with that. Even now, what are you even saying? You ought to feel thankful that you have a family at all. It is only required of you to support that family. I won't end our marriage. I was conflicted by her refusal to get a divorce until I saw Mary was standing outside, glaring at me and shaking, and she was watching us dispute. Anyway, turn on the water and electricity again right now. We have 2 weeks left before the end of the month, even with our move. We're not even able to live right. You are able to give them a call. Get rid of my belongings. Are you not accustomed to getting rid of my belongings? Seldom do I have something noteworthy. My clothes and necessities are here because I frequently stayed at the office. Are you going to live in your office's small break room? I have a house I bought during my first marriage, I said, shaking my head. Now, I intend to reside there. My mortgage still has to be paid off. I purchased a mansion with great excitement for the family. That mortgage payment could take a lifetime to pay off. A home. Now that I think about it, Kathy's face when we first met, at a club in downtown New York, was exactly the same. Her eyes sparked instantly. Her eyes brightened when she saw that I was a CEO. Kathy was in her late 30s at the time, and she must have been the most desperate of the younger ladies there, having a child too, thinking that things would be difficult and viewing me as an easy target. A reference? What topic are you discussing? I've never heard anything like that. You haven't heard because I never brought it up, of course. But it would be pointless to try to accept it. Since we bought it before we got married, it isn't regarded as joint property. Go ahead and seek alimony if you so choose. I'll fight you and get a lawyer. I truly don't want to go through a divorce trial, but because I now know that the family with Kathy was a deception from the beginning, I have no other choice than to accept this truth. What an unpleasant thing it is for a married couple to argue like this. I will undoubtedly make an alimony claim. It's just too cruel to turn off the water and electricity and force us to go all at once. And I'll see to it that you provide Mary child support. Kathy spit out her words, dragging Mary along as they drove out. I was prepared for a protracted battle because of her strong pride, but a few days later, she sent over the divorce papers without warning, and the divorce was completed amicably. I'll consent to a divorce if that's what you desire. I refuse to request child support or alimony. I'll get rid of everything in the house. Okay then, goodbye. That was the last time I heard from her. She's probably moved on to live with a new man. If it were just a matter of moving, getting rid of everything in the house would be strange. She's probably starting a new life somewhere with a new man. But that doesn't matter to me anymore. I don't care about what happens to Kathy or whoever she's with. I went back to the mansion in downtown New York, feeling depressed for the first time in a long time. How many years had passed since I'd last been here? The interior was immaculate, and everything about the house was in its original place, ready for immediate move-in. No, time in this house had stopped 10 years ago, the day my first wife, Amy, left with nothing more than a divorce notice and walked out. I have to thank Kathy reluctantly because without her, I never would have returned to this house. I told Kathy that it was a house to live in, but to be honest, I never meant to live here alone. It's unsettling to think of living in a house this size alone, and it makes no sense to keep paying a mortgage on a house that is empty. Tomorrow, I'm going to talk to the real estate agent about selling the house. It might not be worth as much as when I bought it, but that is unavoidable, so simply being willing to let it go feels like a step forward. My phone rang then, and it was Amy. I stared at the caller ID, feeling shocked that I would actually see her name again, never dreaming that the day I moved back into the house we shared, she would call. And I answered, almost without thinking. I could hear my voice faltering as I said, "Hello." It had been 10 years since I'd spoken to Amy. "Tim, is that you?" "A long time has passed. How are you doing?" Her well-known voice made my heart race. "Yes, it has been a while." "How are you doing, Amy?" I genuinely loved her, and as I was speaking, memories of our time together came flooding back. When I first met Amy, 2 years after I started working for a big corporation, she was still a college student, and we got together through a mutual friend. Amy was already kind and gorgeous, well-liked by everyone, so it felt miraculous that we were a couple. Her, the sought-after beauty, and me, the plain guy from a big company, especially when she admitted that she liked me first. I was genuinely happy. Following Amy's college graduation, we made a promise to each other when we got married. I bought a mansion that was way out of my price range, and we built a big, roomy house with the idea that we could live there comfortably as we grew older and started a family. We never lost our happiness, though, and we enjoyed each other's company throughout the day. But as I said earlier, work and business obligations caused me to spend more time away from home. Amy was working sick at the time, so she was on sick leave from her job, and I realized that leaving her alone in such a big house and just waiting for me to come home could have been upsetting for her. I didn't really think about Amy's feelings. I just thought it was enough that I could support her financially. And then, after taking only a few personal items with her, Amy vanished. I was shocked, but I was also getting angry at that point because even though she had never caused her financial difficulties, the way she abruptly left the marriage, as if running away, begs the question of how she could take into account the feelings of others. These kinds of thoughts come to me because of my upbringing. When Amy left, I was so distraught that I had to quit my job. It took some time for me to get over it. When we talked about my parents in therapy, the therapist said, "Your father was quite authoritarian towards the family, and you were affected by that." I thought back to when I was a child. My dad worked as an office worker, not very well paid, and he wasted away weekends and nights drinking. Our family never had much money, and my mom had to work 2 jobs to pay for my education. I could never forgive my dad, but I never took it out on him. Instead, I put all of my energy into my studies, outperforming him and landing a job at a big company. My way of getting even was to make sure my mother never had to worry about finances. I succeeded in getting into a prominent institution, but before I could get even, my father unexpectedly died from a horrible illness. Without my goal, I felt as though I had wasted all of my hard work leading up to it. Amy was the one who gave me a new purpose in life. "Your life should be lived for yourself," she informed me. I had a lasting tie to this house since I had also lost Amy, and I had even harbored hopes that she may return. That expectation persisted even when I married Kathy, and although I made every effort to be a good parent to them, I could not help but think about this house. I've been working abroad for the past few years, and this week I returned. I called out of the blue, saying, I'm sorry to disturb you, knowing you have a family. No, not at this time. I have a divorce. Once more, I've lost everything, she answered. Then there was a gasp on the other end of the line, and Amy's voice became strained, and she burst into tears. Amy, what's wrong? Are things going well for you? Surprised, I questioned, expressing concern for her right away. I apologize. That's when I got afraid. I was really scared, the woman remarked. Afraid? What frightened you? Did you get nervous because I wasn't coming home? I sincerely apologized for it. I didn't know what was most important because I was young. No, that wasn't the reason. To be honest, I suffered from daily anxiety due to our inability to become parents. I felt inadequate to the magnificent home you had created. I felt a great deal of remorse. We'd never really talked about having kids. I simply assumed it would happen when it happened. I had no idea she'd been feeling so burdened. I didn't know you had those feelings. For me, it was sufficient to simply be able to live with you, I remarked. I had the same emotions. I've lamented our split forever. Would you wish to try living with me again? After all the drama with Kathy and her family, I was scared I would be hurt again. But I also didn't want to look back and regret anything. I questioned, mustering up the confidence. She answered, Give me some time to think. Obviously. Take as much time as you require. I answered. I don't want to ever make you regret anything. In any case, I hadn't seen the end of my battle yet, and a few days later, I received the call that was to come. I've made up my mind. I will make an alimony claim. Our lives are a disaster as a result of your actions. Since I was the one who had experienced the worst, I questioned how she could have spoken such a thing. Why the hurry? Guess what? Your new man ran away, didn't he? Are you going to try to con me out of even more money now? Kathy was obviously in a panic. A new man? What topic are you discussing? It won't help to pretend you don't know. I apologize, but I had a detective agency look into you. It seems strange that after raising such a fuss over alimony during the divorce, you suddenly decided you didn't want it. I've got proof. Is it still possible to discuss alimony? Kathy struggled to find words. Mary exists, but I think I should be the one requesting alimony. I don't want to burden her life, regardless of you. You really need to consider your lifestyle, if only for Mary's sake. Then Kathy gave Mary the phone. I apologize, Daddy. It wasn't how I intended for it to be. Don't leave Mom behind, please. Sadness welled up beyond my indignation. Were we again going to play such dirty tricks with our daughter? Listen, Mary, you and Mom have to collaborate honestly going forward. Relying on a man's assistance is not something you should do. It typically ends in sadness. But after I said that, Mary laughed and said, Huh. Do you believe that I should be treated like a child? Mom as well. Really? I detest grown-ups. I'm completely finished. I despise everyone, she yelled. Subsequently, there was a tremendous noise over the phone. She must have thrown it. The call was disconnected, suggesting that the phone shattered. She never called again. This seemed to settle the issue for the time being, but there's still something I haven't told you about. To be honest, I was lying when I said I had hired a detective agency to look into Kathy. I knew she had a new man already because I had arranged for him to be introduced to her. I set up a trap by bringing in an actor, and Kathy fell for it splendidly, getting carried away, and saying she needed neither alimony nor child support. Everything went according to plan. Having tasted wealth, it was unthinkable that she would go back to a regular job. But now, no longer young, I thought she would cling to any man who had money. I mean, she had been lying to me all along, so I suppose it wouldn't be unfair to lie to her in the end. But lying to someone like Kathy didn't make me happy. All I felt was a deep, empty feeling that words couldn't express. Afterwards, I learned that Kathy had nowhere else to go and went back to her parents' house. There, her brother and his wife were taking care of their aging parents, and there was an arrangement that allowed her to stay in exchange for helping to take care of them. Though that arrangement was short-lived. Kathy had never been good with her parents. She had always resented them, and they had never forgiven her for running away from home as if she were trying to escape. Before long, a tragic incident happened while she was living there, and it quickly became the talk of the household. Mary's mother was jailed, and she was placed with other family members. She was young and experienced many obstacles, but maybe it was best that she avoided Kathy's influence. I genuinely hope Mary may begin her life anew in a new home. When the summer was over, Amy came to my mansion. Her request for time to reflect was really about the fact that she had a 5th grader for a kid, which I was unaware of. I was so happy when you said you wanted to live together, but I couldn't bring myself to tell you about my son. What are you discussing, Amy? Now your son is also my son. I really do feel this way. I'll never forget the moment I saw Amy's son briefly peek out from behind her, his concerned expression shifting from Amy's face to mine. This is your dad from today, Kenny. Look at him. Say hello. Amy encouraged you. The bewildered youngster hesitated as his mother prodded him, so I said, You don't have to think of me as your dad right away. Kenny, welcome to our home. With a mental vow to take my time in assisting us in becoming a family, I held out my hand to the boy.